There is a quiet truth about life that we often avoid when we are young. We think we have time, time to say sorry, time to call someone, time to live differently, time to become who we truly are. But then life happens, and suddenly one morning you are 70, and the house is quieter, the phone rings less, and your thoughts, they speak the loudest. Today, let us gently sit with a difficult but healing truth. The six silent regrets many men over 70 carry every morning and how they can still heal even now. Not to create guilt, but awareness. Because awareness is the first step toward peace. 1. I worked so much, I forgot to live. There is a silent tragedy that unfolds not in hospitals or wars, but in offices, meetings, and calendars filled with endless deadlines. A man named Mr. Sharma once shared something that stayed with those who heard him. He said, I was never lazy, I was never careless, I was just busy all the time. For 40 years, his life had a rhythm: wake up early, rush to work, return home tired, sleep, and repeat. He believed he was fulfilling his duty as a husband, a father, a provider. And in many ways he was. But life has a subtle way of asking questions later that we avoid earlier. When he retired at 70, the house was quieter, too quiet. His children had their own lives. His wife had adapted to solitude. And suddenly, Mr. Sharma discovered something uncomfortable. He knew how to manage people, files, and finances, but he did not know how to sit with himself. One evening, he was sitting on a bench outside his home when a small boy came and sat next to him. The boy asked innocently, Uncle, what do you do all day? Mr. Sharma smiled and said, Nothing. But inside, he felt a deep ache. Because the truth was not that he had done nothing, it was that he had done everything except live. This is one of the most common regrets among men over 70. They did not waste life in wrong choices, they simply postponed life itself. They thought they would live later. But later arrived quietly without invitation. The healing here is not about guilt, it is about awareness. Life was never meant to be only a responsibility, it was meant to be a relationship with time itself. Even now, healing begins in small acts: sitting with family without checking the phone, watching a sunset without thinking of tomorrow's tasks, laughing without urgency, eating without rushing, speaking without agenda. Because life is not only built in grand achievements, it is built in ordinary moments fully lived. And Mr. Sharma slowly began to learn again, not how to work, but how to live. He started taking evening walks, learning to notice trees, birds, and people again. And one day he said, I wish I knew earlier that life was not a race to finish, but a garden to walk through. Two. I didn't express love enough. Love is one of those emotions that does not disappear when unspoken, but it becomes heavier. Many men grow up in environments where expressing emotions is seen as weakness. They are taught to provide, protect, and stay strong. But rarely are they taught to say, I love you, I miss you, or I am proud of you. Mr. Ali, a retired government officer, once shared a memory that changed how he viewed his life. His son was leaving for another country. At the airport, his son hugged him tightly and said, Abba, I know you love me, but I wish I had heard it more. Those words stayed with him like silence that suddenly became loud. For decades, Mr. Ali believed love was obvious. He worked hard, paid for education, ensured safety, and fulfilled responsibilities. In his mind, that was enough. But emotional connection does not live in assumptions, it lives in expression. That night, for the first time in his life, he cried openly. Not because his son was leaving, but because he realized how many moments he had let pass without saying what his heart felt. At 70, he began doing something simple but powerful. He started calling his children and ending conversations with I love you. Awkward at first, even uncomfortable. But slowly it became natural, and something changed. His relationships softened. His children began opening up more. Distance reduced, not physically, but emotionally. This is the regret many men carry, not that they did not love, but that they did not express it. Healing begins when we understand that love is not only felt, it is spoken, shown, and repeated. No one ever gets tired of hearing they are loved. But many people grow up wondering if they ever were. Even now, it is not too late. A message, a phone call, a simple sentence. These are not small things, they are bridges rebuilt across years of silence. Because in the end, love unexpressed does not vanish, it waits. 3. I held grudges too long. There is a strange illusion about anger, it feels powerful when we hold it, but it slowly weakens us from within. Mr. Verma and his brother once shared a strong bond, but a property disagreement created a divide that neither side wanted to heal. Days turned into months, months into years, and years into decades. They lived in the same city but became strangers. For 25 years, they did not speak. One day, Mr. Verma received news that his brother had passed away. At the funeral, he stood silently, unable to cry. Not because he didn't feel pain, but because the pain had no direction anymore. Later, he said something that shook those around him. I won the argument, but I lost the person. This is the hidden cost of holding grudges. We often believe we are protecting our dignity, but in reality, we are imprisoning our peace. At 70, many men look back and realize that what they called principle was sometimes just pride that lasted too long. And while pride can protect ego, it destroys connection. Healing begins with a shift in understanding. Forgiveness is not about the other person deserving it, it is about you deserving freedom. Even if reconciliation is not possible externally, release is always possible internally. Mr. Verma eventually wrote a letter to his brother that he never sent. In it, he wrote all the things he never said: regret, love, memories, apology. And after writing it, he said something unexpected: I feel lighter, even though nothing has changed outside. That is the power of letting go. It does not change the past, but it transforms the present. At any age, but especially after 70, peace becomes more valuable than being right. Because time does not reward victory, it rewards clarity of heart. And sometimes healing begins with a simple sentence whispered to oneself: I am ready to let this go. 4. I ignored my health thinking I had time. Health is one of those blessings that quietly supports every other blessing until it doesn't. Mr. Iqbal, a school teacher, used to say, I will take care of my health after retirement. He believed that life was too busy to pause for checkups, exercise, or rest. But years of neglect accumulated silently. At 68, he had his first serious health scare. Lying in a hospital bed, he said something that stayed with his family. I always thought I was saving time by ignoring my health, but I was actually losing time. This is one of the most painful realizations in later life, that the body was never an obstacle, but a companion that was not listened to. Many men over 70 carry this regret. They prioritized work over wellness, responsibility over rest, urgency over care. And the body, patient for decades, eventually speaks, louder than ever. But here is the hopeful truth: the body has remarkable capacity to heal when treated with respect. Mr. Iqbal began small changes: morning walks, balanced meals, regular checkups, gentle yoga. Nothing extreme, just consistent care. And slowly his energy improved, not just physically but emotionally. He once said, I thought aging meant decline. Now I realize it means awareness. Healing in health is not about reversing age, it is about honoring it. Even now, small choices matter. Drinking enough water, walking daily, sleeping on time, listening to pain instead of ignoring it. Because health is not built in emergency set, is built in ordinary daily discipline. And perhaps the deepest healing is realizing your body has been loyal to you your entire life. It is never too late to start being loyal back. 5. I didn't nurture friendships. There is a quiet loneliness that does not announce itself loudly. It does not come with tears or drama. It comes with empty chairs, unanswered calls, and evenings that feel a little too long. Mr. Thomas, a retired engineer, once said something that many men relate to only later in life. I was never alone when I was working. I was surrounded by people, but I was still alone in a different way. At work, there were meetings, colleagues, deadlines, celebrations, and daily interactions. Life felt full. But most of those relationships were functional, not emotional. They existed because work required them, not because hearts were connected deeply. After retirement, the phone that once rang constantly slowly became silent. Invitations reduced. Conversations became shorter. And one day, Mr. Thomas realized something surprising. He had many contacts, but very few companions. One evening, sitting on his balcony, he looked at his phone and scrolled through names. Dozens of them. But only two or three felt comfortable enough to call without hesitation. That realization created a strange heaviness in his chest. Friendship, he realized, does not disappear suddenly. It fades slowly when not nurtured. At 70, many men feel this regret deeply. Not because they didn't have friends, but because they assumed friendships would sustain themselves without effort. Life became busy, priorities shifted, and emotional maintenance of relationships quietly stopped. There is a beautiful truth. Relationships are like plants. Work builds them, but attention keeps them alive. Mr. Thomas decided to do something simple. He called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in 15 years. His hands were shaking a little. The conversation was awkward at first. There were pauses, hesitations, even some nervous laughter. But something beautiful happened. Time melted faster than expected. That one call became two, then three. Slowly, friendships that were thought to be gone started returning, not as they were before, but in a more mature, honest form. Healing here is not about regret, it is about reconnection. Even now, it is never too late. A message saying, I was thinking about you, a call without purpose, a meeting without agenda. These small actions rebuild bridges that time only covered, not destroyed. Because in the end, life is not just measured by achievements, but by the people who would still answer your call at 70 and smile when they hear your voice. 6. I didn't forgive myself. This is the deepest and most silent regret of all. Not what others did, not what life did, but what we did and cannot seem to let go of. Mr. Khan, a retired army officer, once shared something very personal. He had faced difficult situations in his career, decisions made under pressure, moments where outcomes were not perfect, and choices that haunted him in silence. On the outside, he was respected, disciplined, and strong. But inside, there were memories he revisited, often not with pride, but with pain. One night he said, I survived wars, but I never survived my memories. At 70, many men reach a point where they replay their past more than they live their present. They think about missed opportunities, harsh words spoken in anger, relationships not repaired, and decisions that cannot be changed. And slowly they begin to carry an invisible burden, self blame. But here is the truth that often arrives too late unless we consciously choose it earlier. Past self did not have the awareness your present self has. You made decisions based on the knowledge, emotions, and circumstances you had at that time. You were not careless, you were limited by what you knew then. Mr. Khan slowly began a practice suggested by a counselor, writing letters to his younger self. In those letters, he did not justify everything, but he softened his tone. He replaced judgment with understanding. He wrote, you did what you could, you are trying, you didn't know better yet. And that's okay. At first, it felt artificial. But over time, something shifted inside him. The weight did not disappear overnight, but it became lighter. Self forgiveness is not erasing the past, it is releasing the emotional punishment we continue to give ourselves long after the lesson is learned. Many men over 70 live not in their current life, but in mental replay of past chapters. Healing begins when the replay is gently stopped. Even now, forgiveness can begin quietly, not loudly, not dramatically, but honestly. A simple inner statement: I allow myself to be human. Because peace does not come from a perfect past, it comes from an accepted one. Final thought: when we listen to these 6 regrets, it may feel heavy at first. But their purpose is not to create sadness is to create awareness before time turns memory into regret. Life does not punish us suddenly at 70. It gently shows us what we postponed for too long. But the most beautiful truth remains: it is never too late to love more deeply, never too late to forgive, never too late to reconnect, never too late to care for your body, never too late to speak kind words, never too late to forgive yourself. Because life is not asking you to rewrite your past, it is simply inviting you to live your present more fully, starting now.